So in the banking industry, John, anything over 5 acres is considered a non-conforming loan, okay? And here's the base concept. If you have a home and a mortgage, and you have land that's not part of the home somewhere else, okay, and a mortgage, and you can't make one mortgage payment, which one's you probably gonna make?
I'm probably gonna make the one where I sleep.
Yeah, you bet, where your tail is, right? I mean, you know, so there's been more risk. And also when you borrow money on land, and by the way, the big banks, they just really don't want to hold vacant land paper. They never have. And you'll find that the interest rate is usually 2 points higher than on a conventional loan. So if you're getting a 30-year mortgage on a home purchase, right, interest rates right now are around 4%, you know, it varies, but let's say 4%. Well, when you go to a bank to borrow money on vacant land, it's going to be 6%. It's usually 2 points higher on interest, okay? Plus, they won't go out normally 30 years. For example, Farm Credit, they'll only go out 20 years, okay? And, you know, but, you know, for a while, the credit unions were very aggressive against Farm Credit up until about 2 years ago. And, you know, they're pretty much out of it now. Other than, I think one of the guys I talked to, not this January, last January, I said, what's your policy on borrowing money for non-conforming land? He says, Lou, we got this great policy. We need 60% down. We're 9% interest, and we'll go out 3 years, okay? But Farm Credit, now they were doing 15% down, okay, for the 20 years, okay? But they've gone up to 25%. I assume at some point. Now, Farm Credit they're all over the United States, and I was telling you this story earlier, and I'm sorry I kind of got off track there for a second. But back in 1946, after the World War II ended, the federal government decided to privatize Farm Credit. I mean, I wish we had that same group of people back in Washington, you know, that would get rid of a lot of these government programs, but that's political and I don't want to go there, okay? But anyway, so they privatized Farm Credit, and a group of us like me and you and Kate, for example, you know, we applied and we wanted to buy 56 counties in North Carolina. Well, there's a group that did that back then. It's called Carolina Farm Credit. And as you go around the country, the United States was broken up in these different things. The generic name is Farm Credit, so you can Google that, just Google Farm Credit, and on their national site, put in the zip code where you live, and it'll tell you where the local offices are. Now, all the offices are set up in rural areas because the population, I think it is around 28,000 or less. So you're not going to go to Charlotte or Atlanta and find a Farm Credit office. They're going to be in these rural areas.
Because there's not any farms.
Well, exactly.
Or not as many farms as there would be.
And it's set up for the rural areas. That's the basis of the program, okay? So now that $100,000 you want to invest, let's just put $50,000 down, which, God, they're going to love you, okay?
Yeah.
And they may give you a better rate than the 2 over points, okay? And then we're going to borrow the money on the rest of it, okay? And then you call up your buddy Owen Osborne that you helped, and said, let's get out here and do a preliminary survey on this thing. Not a final, a preliminary.
Yeah.
And let's get Joe Hinton out there of the county, and let's do the soils work, make sure that the soils are suitable, okay? And then we'll take that over to the planning board director in the county, because that's the way when you're doing subdivisions, you know, quite frankly, if we were doing 100 acres or 50 acres, you know, when I did these rural subdivisions, the rule in North Carolina, as long as you stay 10 acres or more, you don't have to get the government involved.
So if I were to buy 100, let's just say I had a bigger budget.
Okay.
Let's just, I mean, I don't know what my budget is, but let's just say I wanted to buy 100 acres. And so I could take that 100 acres and we could break it up into 10 acres tracts without getting the government involved.
That's correct.
And still, or you know, break it up into other sizes.
Yeah, 10 or 20 based on the topography.
And the reason we would do that is so we could attract a larger range of buyers. Right. So we could have a buyer that may just want to spend $10,000 and buy the you know, a certain size lot, but then we could have a buyer that may want, but we could take the big property I buy as a whole, the whole 100 acres, and we could break up two into 10 acres, 2 into 20 acres, you know, maybe, you know, anything. We could change the size and make it different so we could have, you know, all our different ranges of buyers.
You have different products.
Different products, just like a store.
Oh, yes, a store. It's different products.
It's like a land store, right?
Land store. Right. We have a land store.
And I always heard from some friends of mine who buy a lot of land around here. Tony, and I've heard it from you and other people. They tell me you make money on land when you buy it, not when you sell it.
That's correct.
And the reason by that's getting good deal, the right deal, having the right realtor that knows what they're talking about, the right location,
right features,
and the highest and best use also is if you're looking to resell, as far as to make money. So
for example, what you just threw out there, you know, in the counties, y'all have called what's a minor subdivision rules. Okay, so for example, in Surrey County, I can break up 5 lots. Okay, and by the way, Surrey County is 3/4 of an acre. Or 30,000 square feet, which is a little less than 3/4 of an acre. Minimum lot size. We were using the 43,560, the 1 acre lots, just for simple math. But you can do up to 5 subdivision lots, called a minor subdivision, along with the 10s and 20s in the background. So what you do is you take advantage of the road frontage, because remember, less is more. Less acreage is more per acre. More acres is less. So maybe you're getting 4,000 an acre on the 10 acres in the back, but on that road frontage lot, you might be getting $30,000, and it's not even an acre. So start running those numbers, okay?
Now, if I were to do that, in order to get access to the back lots, would I have to put in some sort of road or anything?
What I did always was I tried to work with the farm roads. A lot of these, you know, they have farm roads to get from this point to that point to whole crops and stuff. So we, you know, I look at that first because it's already there. I don't really have to spend a lot of money building a road, okay? And by the way, when you're doing the 10 acres or more, you know, and the government's not involved. You're not involved with paving roads or putting gutters in and all this stuff. I'm called a dirt road developer. You've heard people call me that before, right?
Oh yeah.
And what I do is I do starter roads when I'm doing a development, and then.
What do you consider a starter road? Is that something where you...
I usually grade it 12 feet wide, and then I'll put stone in 10 feet wide, 3 inches of A/B crush and run.
Okay.
It's a starter road,
yeah.
Of course the tiles and so on.
Okay.
And then have a road maintenance agreement, because this is important too when you're looking at investing in land. You need to know and get somebody to do these researches for you if it has protective covenants. Some people call them restrictions. I like to call them protective covenants. Okay.
And what all would that entail? Like
it's recorded with that land. Normally in the rural areas, in this area, most of our zoning is rural agriculture, RA, which basically says you can do anything with it. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you put protective covenants, so you go into a subdivision around a town, they're going to have a homeowners association. They're going to have protective restrictions, they call them. Grass has to be cut so high you can't park your car in the front. Garbage has to be this.
It doesn't sound any fun to me.
So in the rural areas, what I've always done, and the reason I like to call them protective, John, and I hope you guys continue this, and I hope people pick up on this, is I want to be protected. I don't want to be restricted. But for example, what I do is the type of homes, maybe no single wides, or no double wides, or minimum square footage, no license, unlicensed or junk vehicles can be maintained on the property.
Yep.
That's protection. That's good. You don't want to buy 10 or 20 acres and your neighbor comes over there and puts 10 or 20 junk cars.
Because then it would hurt the value of your property.
Well, aesthetically, and you know, it's not going to, an appraiser can't do it that way, but you know, it's aesthetically it will. And it'll limit the number of people that will want to buy when you're ready to sell. And then you may put, garbage has to be maintained in a sanitary condition and disposed of on a weekly basis, okay? These are all good. Can't further subdivide. So a person, you buy 20 acres, somebody buys 10 acres, and then they turn around and they want to take that 10 acres and make 10 1-acre lots, okay? So it kind of protects that environment. So that's what I'm talking about. I don't like to put a lot of them on there, but I'd like to just put enough on there that it maintains and helps the value.
That sounds good.
Right.
So as far as, is there any other tips or anything you want to tell me, anything else about buying, when I'm wanting to buy the land that I would need to know before going in?
Yeah. Well, basically, what is it that you want the land for?
Yeah.
Okay, is it recreational? I mean, you love to hunt and do this, you got your buddies, so you want to have like a hunting club?
Yeah.
Or could it be a church? You want to have a family campground, getaway type thing, maybe build a few shelters like what we're in here at the park, you know, have some picnic tables. Or you want some agricultural land that you want to grow, maybe have a blueberry farm or a truffle farm. You know, we're doing truffle farms, viticulture. We have over 100 wineries.
And these are cash crops. These are crops that you can make money off your land. And also timber as well.
Yeah, and when we get into the timber aspect, you know, we'll get into all that, but that's cash.
And you can also use, we won't get into it too much now, but if the land that you have, if it has good timber on it, correct, you can also use that timber. You could get timberman to come by and give
the
you
the one that Kate has out there on Flat Rock Road. It's 27 acres. Remember, we sold off 37. We took this one track and we broke it up because it's easier to sell smaller tracks than the big ones. And John went out there and did a cruise on it, and we got it listed for I think 84.9 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just reading the letter today where he went out and did an informal cruise, not a full cruise, but he valued the timber somewhere around $35,500.
And that money, that $35,500 valuation he gave, that can be used as cash at closing,
exactly.
correct?
Yeah, you get a timber deed. We'll get into it, but you get a timber deed. You sell the timber. That money's at the table when you're doing the closing.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's basically just a lot of other ways that you can, when you're buying land, that you can have the land that you're buying. It already has resources on it that you can use to put money back in your pocket immediately, or even before acquisitions such as timber.
And then deferments. There are agricultural deferments where your taxes are lowered. In this area, it's like 70 cents per thousand. So on a $100,000 tax valuation, 70 cents, your tax would be $700. Well, if you have 20 acres or more of forested, certified forest, okay, there's a process for that, or 10 acres more of pasture, or 5 acres or more of agricultural land that you're producing $1,000 of income, okay, where you're selling, either leasing it for horses or cutting the hay or corns or the regular crops, or a garden where you're doing tomatoes and blueberries. And so anyway, the county will cut your taxes back as much as 30, 40, 50%. So, that's something you want to know too, because that can be transferred. If you're buying this person's land, they have deferments, you're buying it, that can be transferred for free.
That sounds
keep
neat.
the taxes down. So, that's another thing that you need to look at.
And I know one thing, I know we touched on this briefly in the first thing, but also one of the more important things if you're going to be buying a piece of land is who you're working with also, right? You want to work with somebody with experience, which is...
Because most realtors were not taught this in school. How do you know this stuff, John?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you know about deferments? How do you know about timber?
That's my point.
If nobody's teaching you.
That's the point, yes.
It's really a shame, but that's the way our industry is. So, maybe this will help.
Yeah.
Not only other realtors, and they can come take up my classes or join RLI.
Cool.
And, let's wrap this up.
I think you taught me a lot about buying land. Thank you.
Well, there's a lot more to it. We're just, like I said, that little 4-letter word land's got a long tail. And we're just looking at just little pieces, and those pieces could be another tail. So, I hope this is helpful, and we'll go to the next series.